Hello and welcome to Inspiring Teachers. I'm Danny Hauger, and today's lesson is about how to effectively teach distance learning and manage a hybrid classroom. We've got kids on Zoom and kids in a room. We're going to get into these tips right now because I've gone through my first few days, and it's a totally new way of teaching. It's a new world. It's a new environment. So it's pretty exciting, and it also needs a lot of extra attention. So I'm hoping some of the tips that I've picked up that have benefited me could also benefit you. Thanking my friends at ampeduplearning.com for supporting my lessons, my resources, and even putting some of my best resources on their website, ampeduplearning.com, promo code HaugerHistory10. It's an exceptional place to get assignments, resources. There's a lot of distance learning activities there that you could enjoy. With Hauger History 10 as your promo code, save 10%. Everything from English, math, science, social studies, and more. And a lot of my best Hauger History stuff, including my bell work, which I'm going to talk about now. It's all at ampeduplearning.com. Follow them on social for their excellent giveaways and freebies. And let's get into the lesson. So when I first saw the kids come in for the first time in a year, it was really exciting. Some of the kids are wondering, like, hey, who are you? You can't tell with the mask on. Try to identify the eyebrows, hair, and eyes of your students. But the first thing I would say is greet them with a smile and let them know you're smiling, even if they can't see it. You got to set up that positive environment in the room right from hour one in the physical class again, just like you would if this was day one of school. So that's my first thing. Start building that community. If you haven't watched any of the Inspiring Teachers podcasts or any of my videos before, you know that you can save 95% of issues if you have a good relationship with your students. And that way they are prone to wanting to listen, learn, and enjoy the time with you. So set that up right from the start. Number two, bell work, I feel like, is especially key during hybrid. When there are kids online, they can immediately start working on a journal. I suggest putting a month or a week's worth in a document, post it on Canvas or whatever your learning software is, Google Classroom, whatever it is. Post it there so they can start working on something. So while you're taking attendance, which is going to take you twice as long than as it used to, you've got them busy doing something productive. My bell work, I like to do this day in history. I've scoured the year in the calendar and found various historical things that are happening on every school day of the year. That's what I like to do personally. If you want to make it more standards-based, then have it be like your guiding question or your big objective. Another tip is to ask them a question they don't know the answer to, so they're pre-reasoning with their brain and navigating down roads that you're going to want them thinking on later. You're piquing their curiosity. Also, if it's history, I love a historical tie because then you could relate the past back to the present and take about 60 seconds, again, to divide that relationship up between students call out, students you don't normally call in students at home, even if their webcams are off, get everybody involved. Okay, so that's your first 3 to 4 to 5 minutes. Then participation. So what I like to do in hybrid this week was, for the beginning phase, it's all my home students. So they're projected up on my projector. Everyone can see and hear them. I've rigged up some pretty significant speakers that I brought in, and not everyone's willing or able to invest in their class that way. But I think I bought like the Logitech surround sound from Amazon speakers, maybe spent $100. Now everyone can hear really well. The other thing I did, technically, audio, is I've got a microphone for my Zoom kids, and next to it, a microphone and an amplifier for my classroom kids. Speaking with a mask was not easy, as I found. But if I could be amplified, students would have an easier time hearing me. And if that's huge. I mean, that has to be foundational, right? Maybe ask your school if they'll work with you on purchasing you something if you need it. But it made a huge difference from my test the day before they came in, when my TA couldn't hear me, to having them in the room and knowing I was heard. That was huge. So I recommend that. Okay, so after the first 5 minutes, I again turned to my students at home with a question of the day and had them analyze the objectives of the day, what we were going to learn, and then they were my volunteers for their first 20 minutes. From there, the students who weren't having their in-person day on a rotation, they began to work asynchronously on project-based learning to achieve the standards. So depending on what your project could be, you set up 20 minutes of instructions, and then they have something they can work on for consecutive days. Make your objectives clear. Bullet point out exactly what you want at each turn so that they don't need to reach out for additional assistance. Give resources, give links, museums, articles, videos. Give all those things to them so while they're working asynchronously, they're ready to fire up and go. Then, From that point, I turned to my classroom students, and now we're engaging in multi-dimensional conversation, talking to each other, talking to me, researching. Each one of them responsible for more of the conversation than they used to. Now, this was my favorite part of the day, because now we're back to a quote-unquote normal situation where no one needs to be unmuted. We can respond to each other, and we can each be a source of information and research for each other. Exceptional. Because then they start to look around and realize that they are back into the flow of a classroom that they had missed for a year. So those 3 phases, home kids leading, hybrid kids leading, then classroom kids leading, and then the next day of school, switch. So everyone at home is getting a chance to work asynchronously but lead in the question of the day. Students in class are responsible for a lot of verbal participation. It's almost like while they're in the room, you're going to talk to them double as much as you would have previously in a traditional setting. So when you divide it up over the 2 days that you're not going to see them, and you are, that 50%, they're speaking twice as much. So everyone's still going to get a lot of personal teacher connection and communication. I feel pretty good about that. Okay, so what else is different about hybrid when you're managing both? If you have a TA who you trust, who can help you take half the attendance, that can take half your mind, and then you still go verify that they were on Zoom later, do the Zoom reports and the options. That's helpful. 2, don't let anyone hide. So in the classroom now, it's easier because there's less people, and I feel like it's going to make all of us closer knit the way class sizes should be smaller, because it would result in better education and communication for everybody and attention. Take advantage of that. Structure your lesson around that new, smaller room group, and then make sure you give quality instructions and quality education to the people who are at home too. But what I found is that kind of divide and conquer strategy, where you're setting out really good information for everybody, but then rotating the people through who are going to be able to communicate a lot more in person and giving them that attention that they've been so sorely needing and wanting. And I would also recommend making as much interpersonal communication as you can, where the students can be foundations and fountains of knowledge and wisdom and research, and they can present. So we're doing Shark Tank right now, and they're all helping each other decide what they would pay for items, what they would research, where they would produce it, where they would advertise, what the value to the marketplace would be, what economic factors would be in play. When they're communicating to each other, now it's a 360 ricochet of learning instead of just one-to-one. So I like that. Some other things I want to explore are when students are home, because I don't typically give homework, could they be making videos to then email and present in class so that they can be seen? They can also be without a mask at home if that's a safe environment for them. And you can still get that high energy creative production. Maybe even teach a little media if you can, if your students are old enough, for editing audio and video together, and teach some of those other skills that could be useful in a career sense or in their education too. And yeah, don't forget to just keep using a variety of toolkits, and watch the past 50 episodes of Inspiring Teachers where we talk about different educational resources, tools, production techniques. And once you find out what feels right in your room, then it's just a matter of reformatting the time frame that you have to get everything done, which is its own time and challenge. But once you feel comfortable, you'll be motivated to go and do that. So I hope these tips today have helped you. And they've really helped me so far. So just keep staying tuned. If you have questions, go and shoot them over to us. And we're really grateful to be able to help you out. So again, thanks to ampedup.learning.com for supporting our show. Use promo code HaugerHistory10. We'll be back with more hybrid learning tips and more on this very podcast. I'm Danny Hauger. Thanks so much. My book, A Broadcaster's Secrets to Teaching, is on Amazon. My music, Limelight, the new album, and All at Once from last year, on all digital platforms. Would love a listen on Pandora, Spotify, or YouTube. Until then, class is dismissed. Thanks, everybody, and happy hybrid teaching. Wishing you all the best. Be safe, be well, and we'll talk to you soon.